Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through my top 5 favourite Lucio Fulci movies. So I'm continuing with this top 5 director videos. So this time I've got Lucio Fulci, the godfather of gore, and my introduction to Italian horror cinema. 2 or 3 of his movies were my first foray into that kind of subculture of horror, and they all left a positive impression on me. So I'm going to go through my top 5 favourite movies from Lucio Fulci. So at number 5 we have The House by the Cemetery. So I want to put this one on the list. It's not my favourite Lucio Fulci film, hence why it's number 5. It's probably the weakest of the big Fulci movies in my opinion, although there are a lot of things that I like about it. This one, from what I remember, there wasn't as much gore in this one. It kind of focused a bit more on atmosphere and things like that. This family, they buy this big house by the cemetery that harbours this weird kind of Frankenstein monster down in the basement, and he sort of like hides in the shadows and starts to stalk them and terrorise the kid, Bob, as we've all come to either love or hate if you've seen this film. It does still deliver on the gore. There's some pretty good set pieces in this, and I do think Fulci set a really good atmosphere with this one. For me, this is just not my go-to Fulci film, but still definitely a great movie. So this is number 5, House by the Cemetery. Okay, at number 4 we have The New York Ripper. Often said to be the sleaziest movie of all time. I guess, yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. It's pretty scuzzy, this one. About a razor blade wielding psychopath going around New York, slicing up his victims. And I like this for the scuzziness. I like it for the kind of 42nd Street setting. They use the New York locations really effectively in this movie. It just adds to that kind of dirty, dingy feel. And it definitely delivers in the slasher aspect as well. The razor blade cutting scenes are pretty strong stuff, not for the squeamish. I'm not too keen on the duck-voiced killer. I'm not sure about that. But everything else in this movie I think pretty much works for what it is. And it's one that I've always enjoyed and found entertaining, despite its rather tarnished kind of stake in cinema. But yeah, I like it. So that is number 4. Okay, now the next 3, to be honest, any of these 3 could be number 1 on a different day. I think it just comes down to which one I watched the most recently. But these, yeah, I really love all 3 of these movies. But at number 3, we have The Beyond. So fantastic movie. Katrina McCall, she buys this dilapidated bed and breakfast building, which happens to be situated on top of the gates of hell. So that leads to all kind of problems, as you can imagine. So zombies and such coming out the walls and coming down from the cellar, things like that. There's a really cool scene of the plumber having his face pulled off by the hand in the wall. Fulci always tend to went for quite visceral gore, so things going in your eyes and things like that, and that's ever present in this movie. Of course, the tarantula eating the guy's face, one of the greatest things in cinema I've ever seen. It's both ridiculous and completely unconvincing, yet at the same time very effective and makes your skin crawl. Very interesting scene, that worth watching for that scene alone. And one of the best recommendations I think for Italian gore cinema. So yeah, a movie that I've always loved. As I say, it could have been higher on the list. I just depends what mood I'm in. But The Beyond is awesome. And I remember the scene at the beginning when the guy is crucified to the wall. When I watched that for the first time, that did genuinely shock me. It's pretty strong stuff. Okay, number 2, again, could have been number 1, but at number 2, I've gone for Zombie, or Zombie Flesh Eaters, or Zombie 2, whichever title you prefer. This was the first Lucio Fulci film I ever saw. Watched it when I was way too young, found it on video. I've still got the original video up there, which I've showed before. And this film just blew my mind as a kid. It was like discovering some kind of forbidden treasure, and it was on a different level to anything that I'd seen back then. And I just loved it. And even as a kid, I really appreciated it for what it was and how effective it is. And I still think this film probably has the best zombies of any film that I've seen, and it uses them in some of the best ways I've ever seen. So the zombies coming out the grave and just the way they look and the way they stumble around is just absolutely fantastic. And I heard that they had no money for special effects, and they just had to use like clay and putty to make up the zombies. But if that's the case, they did an extraordinary job, because they really do look like they are rotting zombie carcasses. It's such good, convincing effects. The film really should be commended for that, even though it's trashy and gory and was considered very obscene in this country at the time. It's actually an incredibly well made horror film, very, very well crafted. And of course we get Zombie versus Shark, which, you know, if that doesn't sell it to you, I don't know what will. So yeah, number 2, we have Zombie, or as I knew it as a kid, Zombie Flesh Eaters. Which leads me to number 1, my favourite Lucio Fulci film. And I've heard a few people actually don't like this one, but I've always really enjoyed it. And that is City of the Living Dead, which has, for me, a fantastic concept for a horror film. A priest commits suicide on the grounds of his church, and by doing such an unholy thing, he opens the gates of hell, which start to be unleashed upon this small town. And Christopher George and Katrina McCall, they have to kind of get to the bottom of it and fight the evil that's emerging in this town. I really, really love this film. It doesn't make a lot of sense, I will admit that, and the ending's very very confusing, but I really like the atmosphere. There's a great mix of atmosphere and gore all mixed into like this Lucio Fulci pot, which works really well in this movie. It has some great set pieces, and I always particularly remember the ending with the zombies coming out of the tomb and being set on fire, with that really kind of strange plodding music. It was really, really good, and fantastic example of Italian cinema and sort of the skills that Lucio Fulci could harness when making these kind of movies. I just think it's a wonderful concoction that he put together here. Oh, and the scene as well where the woman, like, her guts start pouring out her mouth and her face starts to bleed. Really, really freaky stuff. But again, it looks amazing. It's done so well. And yeah, just a fantastic use of special effects and music and everything coming together. So number 1 on my list is City of the Living Dead. So that's my top 5 favourite Lucio Fulci movies. Let me know what you think of that, guys. Do you agree with this top 5? If you don't agree, what would your top 5 look like? Feel free to let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.